It was just 20 days ago that the president posted this on Truth Social, demanding that the Attorney General Pam Bondi do something about James, the former FBI Director James Comey, and Senator Adam Schiff of California. The Wall Street Journal reported last night that Trump actually thought he was sending that message directly to Bondi instead of posting it publicly for all of us to see. That mishap revealing the president was directly telling his attorney general who he should be indicted. And of course, now tonight, James is facing charges of bank fraud and false statements to a financial institution. And just yesterday, we watched as James Comey pleaded not guilty in his case. The defendant table is where the New York Attorney General will find herself in just about 2 weeks from tonight. But this evening, she also had this to say moments after that grand jury handed down the indictment.
This is nothing more than a continuation of the president's desperate weaponization of our justice system. He is forcing federal law enforcement agencies to do his bidding, all because I did my job as the New York State Attorney General. These charges are baseless, and the president's own public statements make clear that his only goal is political retribution at any cost.
Current prosecutors had objected to bringing this case against Letitia James, and the former U.S. attorney in the office that ultimately prosecuted her, it's the one that Trump put in that role months ago, resigned after he was facing pressure to bring this particular case because he felt there wasn't enough evidence to do so. He was replaced by Lindsay Halligan, a former Trump defense attorney and insurance lawyer who doesn't have prosecutorial experience, but she's now in charge of Virginia's Eastern District and has been for just over 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, of course, we've seen the indictment of James Comey and now tonight, Letitia James. The history of Trump and James goes back years, of course. She famously sued the president and his company for business fraud, but it's political comments that she made that Trump and his allies often point to.
It's important that everyone understand that the days of Donald Trump are coming to an end.
And as the next Attorney General of his home state, I will be shining a bright light into every dark corner of his real estate dealings.
Now, once she was elected and after Michael Cohen testified here on Capitol Hill about the president's business dealings, James carried out her promise. And on the campaign trail, the president made no secret of his own plan for revenge.
In 2016, I declared, I am your voice. Today I add, I am your warrior, I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution.
Then, as president, Trump has not only called for but cheered the indictment of his political rivals. He also indicated that there could be more to come, as he noted to my colleague Kevin Liptak last month.
It's not a list, but I think there'll be others. I mean, they're corrupt. These were corrupt, radical left Democrats. No, there'll be others. Look, that's my opinion. They weaponized the Justice Department like nobody in history. What they've done is terrible. And so I hope there are others, because you can't let this happen to a country.
We begin tonight with top former prosecutors who are with us tonight: Ellie Honig, Tom Dupree, and Gene Rossi, as well as the Atlantic's David Frum, who is here on this major story. And Ellie, as this came out tonight, it all came together very quickly. As we heard, a grand jury was underway this afternoon. Then the indictment came down in confirmation from the Eastern District of Virginia. The indictment is pretty short. It's only a couple of pages if you read it. I wonder, Ellie, based on what you know, would you have brought this case?
I would not have, Caitlin, simply because the amounts are so minuscule here. Now, if you look at the indictment, the core allegation is that Letitia James bought this home in Virginia in 2023, and she certified that it would be her secondary residence. But in fact, the indictment alleges she used it as an investment and rental property, which gave her a slightly lower mortgage loan interest rate. But if you look at the numbers here, the total purchase amount of the home was $130,000 plus. The amount of the mortgage was just over $100,000, and the indictment says the total amount she profited was $18,000. Let me tell you, I have seen dozens upon dozens of federal mortgage fraud cases brought. I've never seen one for that low of a loss amount. So we'll see. We don't know, frankly, off the indictment how strong the evidence is, but just that loss amount to me shows me that something unusual is happening here, that they chose to indict this.
Well, and they had kind of been looking around at different homes. I mean, it wasn't even clear which one they were going to go after in terms of this, where there was another one where she bought with her niece that was her primary residence. And then it came out it was this home. And so, Tom, you know, when we look at this, the multiple homes, we saw Ed Martin, another top DOJ official who was posing for pictures outside of James's Brooklyn home as well. It kind of raised the question of, you know, obviously they wanted to indict her for something, and they were looking at basically all of her properties in order to get to this point where we are tonight.
Yeah, and look, the Ed Martin maneuver of standing outside and haunting her house is not exactly subtle. I mean, this is one of the least surprising indictments that we've seen. President Trump has been very vocal, both on the campaign trail and once he's taken office, that he was going to do whatever he could to see that Tish James was indicted. So today, I'm sure, is a happy day for him. One interesting thing is the charge that they are bringing appears to be based on a different property than the one that many of us thought it would be based on, a different property in Norfolk. And to my mind, one critical fact or question here is whether after Tish James submitted that form in which she checked the box saying that she intended to use the Norfolk as a primary residence, whether she corrected that error. With regard to the other Norfolk property, at least her lawyers have been saying this was just an inadvertent mistake. As soon as she realized she made the mistake, she tried to fix it. And so my question is, does the same argument apply to this property too? Because that, if true, would go a long way toward a defense that this was an honest mistake rather than attempt to commit a willful, intentional, fraudulent act.
Yeah, I believe on that one, her attorney had turned over emails where she said, this is not my primary residence, making that clear. Obviously, that was a few years ago. And Gene, on this, Lindsay Halligan is the new attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia office. She's well liked by a lot of people in the president's inner circle, but she doesn't have experience as a prosecutor until 2 weeks ago, now that she's been in this role. You've prosecuted more than 110 federal cases. Would you want to argue this
Too
case?
many. Too many. Caitlin, let me tell you this, and maybe Tom and Ellie will agree with me. This indictment is the classic example of indicting a ham sandwich, because a prosecutor is the only one in the grand jury room. There's no defense attorney. It's 23 individuals. You only need 12 votes. And if you can't get an indictment returned, you might as well turn in your bar license. Would I have indicted this case? Absolutely not. And I agree with Ellie on one point. The loss in this case is remarkably low. But I want to go before the loss. In a bank fraud case and a false statement case, the intent is very high. You have to show willfulness. And Tom brought up a good point. If she told the banks or any officials that she was not using this as a primary residence, that is a huge red flag and loud gong in favor of the defendant. So this is a weak case at best, and it has vindictive prosecution written all over it.
So David Frum, notwithstanding anything that our former prosecutors just laid out, I think if you're looking at this tonight and you're the third name on that list from President Trump's post 20 days ago, James Comey, Letitia James, and Adam Schiff, if you're the senator from California, you know, are you preparing your own video response to a potential indictment?
50 years ago, President Nixon had more than a little too much to drink, called up his head of the IRS and said, I'd like to see some files, please. This is a list of the names of people I want to see files. The head of the IRS called his boss, Secretary of the Treasury, George Shultz, and said, what do I do? The president just asked me to do this. It's completely illegal. What do I do? And George Shultz replied, the first time the president of the United States asks you to do something illegal or improper, you didn't hear it. And the second time he asks you, you quit. And so my question is, why is there anyone still working in the Department of Justice today? This is not a story about Donald Trump alone. We know what Trump is. But Trump in his first term was just as reprehensible as he is in his second term. But in his first term, there was person after person who stood up to him. In the second term, the Department of Justice is filled with people who are executing improper orders, who are indicting at the president's command. The moment that direct message appeared, making it clear that Trump was ordering these prosecutions, everyone in the Department of Justice should have said no. You've spoiled the case. Even if we had a good case, which we don't, even if we did, this is now improper. And if you press me to do it, I quit, because I will not be an instrument of personalized presidential power pretending to be justice, which is what all of this case is about. And so all the technicalities of bank, what are the intents, those are all interesting if this were a legitimate action to begin with, but it's it's condemned, tainted, damned at the source, and that's where we need to begin our understanding.
Yeah, it obviously was clear that she was a target of Trump's, and it felt like they were looking for something, obviously searching for something instead of basing it on the crime and then going after who was involved.
In a free society, that shouldn't happen. I mean, it's not, we say it's obvious. Well, then why has someone signed it? That is someone who is in default of their responsibilities. And the people here who are in the spotlight are these creatures of the president's who are carrying out his improper and illegal will.
Been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.